So if you want to learn how to fly by the end of this episode, then stay till the end of the episode to learn how to fly. Yeah, so welcome to the news. So what we're trying to get at today a little bit is turning ourselves into tuning mechanisms, because in essence, as human beings, we are in essence also animals. We are animal beings. We are creatures that correspond to a greater global forest and forestry, because ultimately we emerge from that forest, and being a part of that forest is the collective interest in today's episode of the podcast, because what we're trying to get at ultimately is trying to align more significantly with that fundamental interest to become a part of the forest yet again, because that forest is what made us. That forest is what is part of all of us. And fundamentally being able to connect ourselves with the animals, fundamentally not trying to find a different animal characterization necessarily among the animal kingdom to be able to identify ourselves with necessarily, but to fundamentally be able to identify ourselves as animals, because we all, in essence, started our nature in an evolution that forecasted that we would be human one day, but in essence we started with the same foundation as many of the cellular beings that exist in our planet, that in essence are corresponding to how we got to where we are. But at the same time, we need to tune into the ecosystem of nature. We need to ultimately fundamentally tune into the ecosystem of nature to be able to try to just find our best selves within that connection to nature. And why does that even matter necessarily? Because in essence that corresponds directly to money, that corresponds directly to business, because ultimately every single person in the world doesn't necessarily acknowledge that they're an animal, and so that therefore is how that they ignore their best, most strong, significant aspect of themselves necessarily, because ultimately once you become an animal, once you realize that you are an animal fundamentally, then the whole world ultimately becomes a different aspect of a style of existence in essence, and everything becomes somewhat like it can be, like a playground in essence. If you're like an animal and you realize that you're a human one day, because after all you are part of the animal kingdom, and in essence you have this whole playground that humanity has built around you, and it is called the world in the structure that it has become. After all, obviously it has to do with some specific countries where safety is obviously part of the process, and there is a fundamental ecosystem that corresponds to a fundamental element of safety to a certain extent, to where you can be able to take walks and just do things in nature where in essence it's possible to be fundamentally alright, more or less, to a certain extent. And at the same time, that correspondence in essence enables the concept of the structure of humanity, of human life, of the essence of buildings, of the essence of a more modern society, of construction, of an evolution of humanity to become a playground for an animal. Because in essence, when you realize you are an animal and you wake up one day and you realize, and you tap yourself on the shoulder one day, you realize you're the most powerful animal in the world in essence, in comparison to the other aspects of the animal kingdom. But then again, it's also super relevant to be able to respect the animal kingdom for this reason, because you are a part of it, you came from that, but at the same time it came from you. So it's like a reciprocal process, and at the same time you need to respect it just like it respects you in essence. And at the same time that empowers you, especially in the essence of business, because once you realize you're part of the forest, and once you have that forestry in you, and once you leverage the forest and the connection to the forest, and then you can in essence leave everything else behind, because nothing else necessarily matters once you feel that connection, once you feel that connectivity, especially to animals. Especially once you have an interest for harmony and global harmony and harmonious elements of energy to be able to occur among all of humanity and society within every single country. It doesn't matter which country you're in necessarily. You don't care about politics. You don't care about the essence of where people are going in essence with their societies, because it's a matter of politics and political unrest, for lack of better words. But once you just are an animal and you can separate yourself mentally and physically from society, then in essence you can be your best business self at the same time, because you realize problems and solutions that in essence can enable problems to sort of improve more or less, and that in essence can spread into your personal brand, and that in essence can spread to the world. But in essence you have to become a part of the world's energy. You have to become a part of the world's energy and understand you're an animal, and then be a part of animal communication at the same time, listening to the frequencies, the untapped frequencies, the unknown frequencies, the hidden frequencies that are sort of out there in the universe. But at the same time you have to tune into them by also staying outside. You have to be part of outside. You have to go take walks in center with the self, try to care for the self, care for the mind, give your mind a hug, something of that nature, to be able to incubate your mind so that it grows in of its own self, can incubate and then also crack like an egg so that it gives birth to itself, more or less, fundamentally being able to try to leverage something called spiritual finance, so that in essence you have the ability to actually fly. Because why can you fly? Because in essence, as an animal, you ultimately have this extension from your eyeballs to your legs, in essence, or your toes, more or less, by being able to walk upright. For example, as a human, more or less, that corresponds to the essence that is unique to the animal kingdom, in essence, and that ultimately is similar to the experience simulation of flight, because in essence, your eyeballs are so far up from your toes that in essence the bottom aspects of your legs are more like just little flight controllers. They're actually little flight items that like help you to fight against gravity so that your upper torso is able to float above the ground, in essence, like a good couple feet above the ground, in essence, so that you have the ability to acknowledge that your actual torso is flying, but your little legs just keep your body up in the air, so that in essence you get to float. You get to not only be an animal in this forest that is been made by humanity in the evolution of consistent ongoing like revolution of humanity and technology, in essence, if we can leverage safe communities and safe societies and security around the whole entire world, which is a great core fundamental purpose and interest and significant value to be able to try to strive towards in terms of future humanity, for global security to be a fundamental priority for the whole globe, to be able to try to have that instilled, to fundamentally be able to enjoy the aspect of nature in a fundamental fashion, to connect with the essences of the nature that is around us by just actually fundamentally connecting with nature and the roots and the trees and the elements of all the other animals, by also caring for the animals and the global ecosystem of animals and humans in harmony, because in essence the animals very much are part of us and we're part of them, but at the same time we don't respect them in fundamental like operations of society, and so as a result it causes flaws, it causes a lack of harmony, it causes also not being able to see the best aspects and the best sides of animals for what they're worth. And ultimately, like, the animal shelters as businesses are in essence, they hurt animals all the time, and so as a result the fundamental process is flawed. And by just trying to shift the script and change and then become an animal, become the animal that you already are, and like start playing like an animal more or less, you have the ability to be able to open up doors and businesses, to be able to also open up airwaves with other animals and other human beings, by fundamentally opening yourself first and opening your animal side first, by then connecting to the tuning forks in nature that are all around you and listening to all the unique frequencies in nature, which in essence speak to the essence of humanity and your fulfillment, to where you don't even need money anymore. You don't even need money anymore, which is the easiest way to make money flow easily, because then you're just worried about solving problems for the global ecosystem, and you don't necessarily need money because you've already found some fulfillment within the forest, because the forest is what actually gave birth to us. It's not houses and mansions and cars. Those things didn't give birth to any of us. Those things never added value to any of our lives. They were just contrived systems that were sold to people, and then they were sort of sold as an idea of happiness. But ultimately the forest has everything everyone needs. So once you become the animal, then you become in essence the highest level of animal that's in the world, and then you can take that role. You can take on that role more or less, and then that fundamentally also activates your entrepreneurship mode, because you're always just trying to find ways to better the global ecosystem and all of your betterment of your fellow animal and your fellow human. So at the same time you want everybody to win, because you realize everything is connected like a chain, and a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And that, my friends, is how you are able to fly by the end of this episode. That is how you're able to fly by the end of this episode, because everybody trying to fly together, being a part of understanding that their legs are just giving them the ability to fly, which is super unique compared to every other animal in the world, that in essence you have the ability to fly and then stay above ground just like all the other human beings in the world, and then elevate everybody else's mind to be able to then add more philanthropy to the globe, to be able to add entrepreneurship through the essence of philanthropy, and then philanthropy energy to the global globe of the global ecosystem of the global forest that we all came from and are all a part of in this global energy web. And we want the weakest link of the chain to be strong. We want the weakest link of the chain to be strong. So that is how we're trying to move towards the global philanthropy energy grid, and trying to help everybody be able to just acknowledge themselves as being able to fly. Yeah. Global philanthropy energy grid. Thanks. That's good for now. Bye, Ding Tech. Bye, peace, bye. Ding Tech Change for Games. Ding Tech Change for Games Studios. Bye, peace, bye. Thanks, bye.